Hey, what's going on? I'm here to review a brand new um, DVD that actually was released at the end of last year, but it's new to Netflix, and that's where I got to see it. The Best of the King of the Ring. Right off the bat, I want to say it's a pretty good DVD. I've got a couple of problems and a lot of things that I like about it, so we're gonna get to it right away. Now, I believe that the DVD is 3 discs because there's 3 episodes on Netflix. So bear with me because I don't know a lot about the DVD. I just know about its Netflix version. So we're gonna get right to it. Pretty much, the DVD is pretty good presentation. They picked King Booker to narrate and be the host for this DVD, and I have to say, I like it. There's not too much bullshitting. They get right to the matches. The host, I really hated the King Booker gimmick in 2006. Was just torture for me because I just thought it was the most annoying, childish gimmick ever, King Booker. But I'm not gonna really get into that right now because this is about the DVD, and let's just get right to it. So for some reason, we don't get to see the early King of the Ring matches where Macho King and the rest were crowned. They don't really count those King of the Rings that much because really, in the WWE's eyes, they kind of don't want you to really focus too much on those King of the Rings. WWE like nowadays likes to acknowledge that 1993 was the true King of the Ring. Even though they do acknowledge it, when Sheamus won the crown, they said that he was the 19th King of the Ring. So, WWE's a little bit iffy on how they want you to view the King of the Ring. It really depends. Because if we're going by that standard, Bret Hart actually won King of the Ring twice. Um, and the thing is, in King of the Ring 2001, Paul Heyman says that Kurt Angle will be the first man to repeat King of the Ring. Now, if you're really looking at it from realistic and not kayfabe, then that statement's not true. So anyway, I don't want to get everybody confused, so let's just go right to the DVD. Because some casual fans are gonna lose me. Anyway, we go right to the 1993 King of the Ring finals for the tournament. It's Bret Hart versus Bam Bam Bigelow. This is a slow-paced, methodical match. Methodical, I know, is a synonym for a lot of wrestling fans is boring, and a lot of times that, unfortunately, is the case. But there's something about this match that I sort of like, and there's something about this match that I sort of don't, and that's that it's very slow-paced and one-sided. With Bam Bam Bigelow, really. Doing a really slow pace here. It's a little bit annoying. Luna Vachon gets involved, hitting Bret with a chair. Bret gets thrown back into the ring, and Bam Bam ends up getting the pin. Earl Hebner comes out and tells the referee who can the fall that what happened with Luna interfering. First, Howard Finkel announces that the decision is going to be reversed. He actually announces this, but then he says, "I stand corrected. The matchup is going to be restarted." Was that a botch? Was that done on purpose? I think it was a botch. I'm not really too sure because, what the fuck is he retarded? Does the Fink not realize what's being said to him by Earl Hebner? Anyway, the match ends up getting restarted, and which makes a little bit more sense. So Bret Hart ends up getting a victory roll on Bam Bam Bigelow and the victory. And we've got Bret Hart as our first ever pay-per-view King of the Ring. You know, very slow paced. But Bret Hart was really selling in this matchup. It was believable. Bam Bam Bigelow's a giant man. The couple of good spots in here. Bret really suffering. Really nostalgic feel to this matchup. I don't really like to give points away based on nostalgia because I find that to be cheap. But this matchup does have a lot of it does have a lot of nostalgia, and Bret Hart. I really just got a lot of respect for Bret and how great he worked in the ring. 2.5 stars for this one. I know I'm being somewhat generous. I'm a tough rater, but 2.5 stars. And I know a lot of people actually would give this matchup 3 or even more stars. But no, I'm giving it 2.5. It's enjoyable, slow paced, but it was decent. And I actually do like the finish. I'm a little bit shaky on this rating actually. I'm gonna say 2.5 stars, but don't really quote me on it. Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna for the WWE Championship. This took place at the 1993 King of the Ring. Also, horrible match. I mean, really, what do you want me to say here? I fucking hated Yokozuna. And I'm not worried about being disrespectful because the man is deceased. He was overweight. He was an abomination in the ring. I hated him. I fucking hated this man. And I am a Hulkamaniac. I might be a smart, but come on, Hulkamania. If you were into wrestling, and you grew up around the time Hulk Hogan was popular, you're gonna have a soft spot for him in your heart, and I do too. But this matchup was just horrible, and this was the last match. Now it's not like Hogan didn't seem like he cared in this one, but it was fucking horrible. Yokozuna ends up getting the leg drop on Hulk Hogan, and Hulkamania is just dead, and Yokozuna beats on him after the match. It's just sad. I mean, it really is. It's a depressing last match for Hogan. He really, really went out in the wrong way. But this is pretty much because Vince McMahon was just fucking pissed off at Hulk for going to WCW. So he made him lose in this horrible matchup. I don't even know why it's on there. It was an important match because it was Hulk Hogan. It's historic. You really don't get to see this matchup that much. So I guess it's rare by WWE DVD standards. So, but anyway, just fucking awful. And Owen Hart versus Razor Ramon in the finals for the 1994 King of the Ring. So now we're jumping ahead of King of the Ring, and this matchup was short and sweet. Not really all that sweet. Decent stuff. It was very, very short. With Jim the Anvil Neidhart was part of the New Foundation at the time, interfering, getting the drop on Razor Ramon. Owen Hart climbs up to the top and hits a flying elbow onto Razor for the 3 count. Decent. This matchup could have been so much better. I really liked Razor Ramon, but a lot of people have a lot of mixed feelings about Scott Hall in general. Even when he was in his quote unquote prime, but I liked him. For a bigger guy, Razor Ramon was involved in some legendary matches. He's got a lot of history. I mean, he was in one of the best ladder matches of all time with Shawn Michaels, and he did contribute. I know a lot of people like to say that Razor Ramon was carried in that matchup, but, you can even see in this match, Razor Ramon did have ability in the ring. 2 stars for this one. Just a good decent short match, but nothing really to write home about. Decent. They should have gave this one a little bit more time. I don't know why they cut it so short. But it was great. Also, this is very important. Also, that Owen Hart was also crowned the King of the Ring. He really deserved it. WWE is doing a good job with Owen at this time. I'm just always so sad that they were really fucking up Owen Hart's career around the time of his death. But it's great to look back at matches and really getting to see Owen Hart and really what he contributed to the company. I loved Owen Hart, and sometimes he actually put on better performances than his brother when they were on the same show. So that's credit to him. Anyway, we're jumping ahead to the 1995 King of the Ring. I don't really remember what else was on the 94 King of the Ring, but obviously WWE didn't really think that there was anything that important to show on it. Anyway, Kiss My Foot, Bret Hart versus Jerry the King Lawler. I really got to say I wasn't a big fan of this matchup. A lot of people are going to call me an ignoramus for this, but Jerry the King Lawler is very, 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 very overrated. Not a lot to the King. He's a brawler, but, really never contributed that much to, professional wrestling. It was mostly the gimmick and his mic skills. His in-ring ability left a lot to be desired. You got to respect the King for his legacy and the amount of time he spent in the company. And the King never really overwent any boundaries like Kevin Nash or any one of these other quote unquote legends. The King really kept his mouth shut backstage and wasn't all about ego. So you really got to respect him for that. He's a humble legend, but in the ring, he was always humbled by the other superior wrestlers. This matchup was, I know a lot of people like to say this is a classic. I really just don't think so. It's very, very, below average in quality. I really didn't like it that much. Sorry, but I'm going to have to give this one 1.5 stars. It's just not a lot of substance to it. The King controls the matchup. The offense is boring. The 3 pile drivers is just ridiculous. I mean, he gives him 3 pile drivers. That's his finisher. And Bret the Hitman Hart, who's not a big, strong guy by any means, kicks out of it. I know Bret was resilient, but Jesus Christ, 3 pile drivers and Bret kicks out. Doesn't that just discredit the King's finisher altogether? It's moronic. So yeah, 1.5 stars for this one. I don't like it. Anyway, Intercontinental Championship matchup. They jump ahead to the 96 King of the Ring pay-per-view. Oh, before I jump to this one, I just have to say, do you notice something here? They had the famous Kiss My Foot matchup from 95's King of the Ring. Who was the 95 King of the Ring? By watching this DVD, and if you didn't already know, you wouldn't know. It was Mabel. Who's Mabel? Mabel is Viscera and Big Daddy V. He won the 95 King of the Ring. Probably the worst conceived King of the Ring ever. The man would go on to face Diesel. I believe it was Diesel at SummerSlam 95, and it was probably one of the most awful duds in WWE history. So, it would have been nice for WWE to at least acknowledge every King of the Ring so you know who they are in case you don't already know. And don't look up all the King of the Rings on the internet. But, come on here. It would have been nice to mention him, but I just find it funny that WWE, who invested a lot of time in Viscera and kept bringing him back all this time, but they just didn't want to put that on the DVD. But alright. Anyway, the Intercontinental Championship match at the 1996 King of the Ring between Ahmed Johnson and Goldust. This is right after Goldust gave Ahmed Johnson mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. The match in the opening minute of the match, Ahmed Johnson fucking flies on a plancha at Goldust. I think it was a plancha or at least some type of slingshot clothesline over the top to the outside, and he looks like he almost fucking kills himself. And even JR makes the comment that these high-flying moves are not tailor-made for Ahmed Johnson. I mean, but Ahmed Johnson, credit to him in this matchup, he was really trying to break out the moves. I mean, he put even though he missed it, there was a big drop kick in there somewhere during the matchup. I mean, Ahmed Johnson was trying to be athletic, but really Goldust controls this matchup and dominates it. Again, really one-sided, so it's not really that interesting, and it's not even like Goldust is using any psychology. I mean, if you're going to slow down a match to a snail's pace, at least put some psychology into it. during the last few minutes of the matchup, Ahmed Johnson just goes crazy on Goldust in the corner, hitting him with a flurry of fists. Puts the Pearl River Plunge, which is a Tiger Driver, on Goldust and gets the 3 count and captures the IC Championship. That was around Goldust's waist. Not really spectacular matchup, but decent. Ahmed Johnson, not exactly one of the better wrestlers. Ahmed Johnson just reminds me so much of Ezekiel Jackson. I know I mentioned that on Raw, SmackDown rather, my SmackDown review that I did last week, and I really have to say that he reminds me a lot of him. But anyway, this matchup's like 2 stars. I'm gonna go with 2 stars. I'm pretty confident with that rating. Decent, but there could have been more, and I'm not really sure why Goldust controlled Ahmed Johnson so much in this matchup. Anyway, King of the Ring final, Stone Cold versus Jake the Snake Roberts. This, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, and I have to agree with them, this matchup right here at the end of it signifies the Attitude Era. And I have to say that this was a very, very smart booking decision for WWE. This is not the greatest matchup at all. Actually, it's a pretty terrible matchup. There's nothing much to it. Jake the Snake Roberts is injured during it, so I really don't want to rate it because that's not fair, but if I have to, I guess I'd give it like a half of a star, but that's not really relevant because I would give the match 5 stars based on the historic value of this matchup. And let me explain to you why this matchup is important. Jake the Snake Roberts represents the old school. Stone Cold Steve Austin represented the new school at the time. This was great because Stone Cold dominated. Yes, I know Jake the Snake Roberts was injured in this matchup because of what Vader did to him earlier in the tournament. But Stone Cold getting the drop on Jake the Snake Roberts in this matchup just was significant and symbolic because Stone Cold pretty much was defeating one of the old school wrestlers and ushered in the new era. And you could see in the amazing 1.5 minute promo, very short promo, where Stone Cold Steve Austin is the first one not to wear the cape and the crown, which is because that shit looked pretty fucking nerdy. And just to see that Stone Cold wasn't like the others before him. He didn't wear the cape and he didn't wear the crown, and Stone Cold Steve Austin gave birth to the Attitude Era. He was the first one to say the word ass, and just the more vulgar, raunchy era of WWE was ushered in from this point. So yeah, June 23rd, 1996 was when the Attitude Era was born, in my opinion. And I think that a lot of people share my opinion. Anyway, that was the end of the first disc or episode if you're watching it on Netflix. I thought it was pretty successful, that disc. I mean, to a point. Really, it showed a lot of decent matches, successful, that's historic and everything, but really the quality of the matches, nothing on the first disc exceeds the 3-star mark, which is a little bit sad. And a lot of weird choices. I really forget what's on these King of the Rings. I'm not even really too sure if I saw them ever in their entirety, but they're I'm pretty sure I could probably pick through them and get some better matches because it's a success because it's historic and everything, but really nothing too great. Disc 2. This is a good disc, so let's get right into it. We go to the same event, 1996 WWE Championship, Shawn Michaels versus the British Bulldog for the the WWE Championship. I could say World Championship, but I don't want to confuse people. So WWE Championship. This matchup is an absolute fucking classic. In every respect of the word. 5 stars. 5 fucking stars for this one. I can't even begin to tell you how great this matchup is. It's phenomenal. Back and forth the whole way, just picture perfect. The only fuck up is when Davey Boy Smith slips off the top rope and almost kills himself with a diving headbutt, trying to imitate his former tag team partner, the Dynamite Kid. But this was just a great matchup the whole way through. Shawn Michaels in his prime, British Bulldog. You know, I don't want to say he was in his prime, but fuck, he was just doing so well in this match. Davey Boy Smith in his own right just could have a great matchup any night. Just if he had the right opponent, Shawn Michaels and Davey just going out there, and he had the best match that he had since he faced Bret Hart at the '92 SummerSlam. This is just a great match. I mean, just the whole way through. Davey is working on Shawn Michaels' back through most of the match, setting it up for the running power slam. So you had your psychology, just your back and forth. Really, just I can't even stress enough. It's a good match. An excellent match. Fuck, it's 5 stars. It's excellent. It's nearly perfect. Definitely deserves its point. Its spot on the DVD for sure. This is a repeat. I know if you've bought Shawn Michaels' latest DVD, you've already seen this matchup, so it's a repeat. You know, it's already been on another DVD, but you really gotta say that this is definitely one of the greatest matches in the whole history of the company. At least in my opinion. I fucking love it. Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler. I might be a little bit biased, but I fucking love this match. The next one, Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels. I want to just say right off the bat here, in all honesty, I never saw this matchup before I watched it on this on this DVD, this presentation on Netflix. I just have to say, I'm so happy that I did get to see it. I'm fucking pissed that there was no finish to this matchup because both of them were tag team champions and they didn't want to say that one was better than the other. So that was very disappointing. This match is 4.5 stars. It is the best Shawn Michaels Stone Cold matchup that's out there. And that being that the only other one that's of any high quality or worth mentioning is their WrestleMania 14 encounter. This one blows it out of the fucking water. Why? Because first of all, Shawn Michaels is not, almost debilitated. Because he was seriously injured during that WrestleMania match. So he couldn't really be 100%. Still, that matchup proved to be good. But this one is just so many fucking leagues beyond that one. It is nearly perfect. Aside from that horrible double DQ that I hate that finish because it just ruined it. But I had the time of my life watching. When I say this is back and forth, this is back and forth and it's fast paced. So people who have short attention spans, watch this matchup because it is fast fucking paced and you just have fist flying. You have just the best wrestling I've seen in quite some time. You just gotta watch it to believe it. It is a great fucking match. So 4.5 stars. Anyway, on to the next match. Triple H versus Mankind, the 1997 King of the Ring. Same card, almost the same great quality. This was the beginning of a great feud that would culminate with their steel cage matchup at the SummerSlam, which would be 2 months after this match. This is hardcore as you could get without it being an actual hardcore match. You've got Mankind with his neck twisted in the ropes. I mean, the man was practically hanged in this match. It's just, he gets tossed on his head. This Triple H ends up winning this ultimately with a pedigree, but holy shit, this is downright amazing. This match, 4 stars. I mean, it just shows like what great workers these two guys were. Triple H Triple H got very annoying later on in his wrestling career, especially after he tore his quad, because the man was a show of his former self and still polluted WWE TV to no end. But this matchup, I gotta say, fucking great. Mick Foley is God. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time. Or else it's gonna really run wrong, because I know it run long, because I could go on and on about these matches. King of Ring Finals in 1998. Ken Shamrock versus The Rock. This was a great feud. And it ran long. You had some decent matches. I was very, very disappointed that WrestleMania 14 match that was earlier in this year, 1998. But this one had great counters, a great finish, a clean finish with Ken Shamrock getting a tap-out victory to the ankle lock. But it was really the counters in this matchup that stole the show. I can't even begin to tell you. Probably one, up there is one of the greatest King of the Ring tournament matches that the WWE ever showcased. Just a great one. Ken Shamrock, I was so sad when he left WWE in 1999. I wasn't much of a smart mark back then, in 1999, being 12 years old. I didn't really have, that much knowledge of professional wrestling, but I knew that we were losing out on a great competitor, and we did. Same event, 1998, King of the Ring. Undertaker versus Mankind. Now, I know this is a repeat. I know this is a fucking repeat. You can find this on any Mick Foley DVD, any Undertaker DVD, any Hell in a Cell DVD, any other DVD really that has to do with hardcore matches and all that. They have this on so many DVDs and VHSs, but I don't fucking care. This is a 5-star matchup. This is the best hardcore display in my opinion. Why? There's two major high spots that can never be replicated. One of them I know was an accident with Mick Foley going through the top of the cage. But this just showed that Mick Foley was just beyond any other wrestler, because he just put his fucking life on the line. I mean, Mick Foley seriously could have died in this matchup twice, falling from the high distances. And I know, they could be like, but wrestlers know how to fall. Come on. These are fucking dangerous. Mick Foley had a damn tooth jammed up his nose, and that was real. So, anybody who's, putting their nose up to this matchup, you gotta grow the fuck up and look at reality, because this is a classic matchup, and it was real. So, just deal with it. Undertaker versus The Rock. This matchup from the 1999 King of the Ring for the world title was pretty much one of the those classic 1999 brawls around the arena. We saw so many of them at the time. Really, it's a decent matchup. This match gets more credit than I think it deserves. Not really one of the best outings. I give this matchup 2.5 stars. It's a little bit overbooked. There's a lot going on in it. They really didn't have to have that much involvement in this one. The whole thing with the chloroform rag at the time with The Undertaker was a little bit ridiculous. I mean, that's what we call overbooked. Overbooked meaning in professional wrestling that they did more than they really need to, and it ends up getting a little ridiculous. Is it ridiculous? Yes. This reminds me of that Royal Rumble casket match where the whole locker room empties out just to fuck up The Undertaker. I mean, it's a decent matchup. I kind of I'm a little torn on this. I want to give it 3 stars, but there's just so much, things that were going on this that it would have been a little bit better if it just took place in the ring more, because, going around the arena sometimes is a little bit lazy because it's a lot of walking around, not that much action. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. But, Uh, it's a decent matchup. You don't have to skip past it or anything. The six-man tag team match for the WWE Championship: Triple H, Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon versus The Rock, Undertaker, and Kane at the 2000 King of the Ring. This is an exciting matchup. The year 2000 was great for WWE, and they were on the top of their game. I mean, WWE was all over the place in 2000. They had wrestlers on every single late night talk show, every daytime talk show, every TV series. They're popping up in movies. You know, wrestlers wrestling was just the hip thing in 2000. And this was a great match. Why was it a great match? Because it was just fast paced. You had a lot of big stars in there. This was the McMahon Helmsley era. And Triple H was defending his championship in a six-man tag match. It's the first time that ever happened, so that's unique. The match never really slowed down once. It never, hit a crevice that it couldn't get out of. It just, it just went the whole way through without that many problems. Undertaker smashes Shane McMahon through the table off the top rope, the announcer's table, that is, not just any table. And that was a pretty cool high spot. Shane always taking the high risks. This matchup was pretty exciting. I liked it. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. The Rock wins the championship, even though Kane tries to thwart his efforts because he wants the belt for himself. Strange thing is, sometimes, this matchup did work by the tag format, so I don't understand. Kane was trying to pin Triple H, I think, in this matchup, and he wasn't even a legal man, but Earl Hebner counts it. I don't really understand that too much. Total disregard, probably, losing sight a little bit of what was going on in this matchup, the referee, but anyway, I liked it. So it's on to the next match. Same show, Rikishi and Kurt Angle. This was the finals. I almost thought they weren't going to show this matchup. It was not really the best finals match ever. That goes without saying. Rikishi was in the finals, which a lot of people were very upset about because a lot of people wanted Jericho and Kurt Angle in the finals. But, Rikishi was very popular at this time. I mean, you got to understand, I remember Rikishi was on the cover of TV Guide at the time. I mean, the guy was popular. Dancing in the ring at all time. He was with Too Cool. But Rikishi in the ring was decent at best. This matchup, I'm going to give it, 2 stars. It was decent. I know I've seen a lot of reviews of this matchup. People give it a lot worse, but I'm not really gonna hate on it that much because I really don't see what's wrong with it. Rikishi was selling I think it was his left arm, an injury that he suffered earlier in the week. Val Venus gave him that injury during the tournament, and Kurt Angle ends up hitting a pretty impressive belly-to-belly suplex off the top with Rikishi. That's a pretty good spot considering that Rikishi was like about 350 pounds. So gets the pinfall victory, and King Kurt is born. And King Kurt they didn't explain this on the DVD, but actually was a little bit like King Booker, but not as annoying. Would wear his crown down to the ring, and actually was announced as King Kurt for quite a few weeks after this tournament. Light Heavyweight Championship, Jeff Hardy and X-Pac at 2001 King of the Ring. I have to say, out of all the matches on this whole entire DVD collection, I am very, very surprised to see this one. Why? Because I just feel like WWE ignores X-Pac, and it's for the Light Heavyweight Championship. WWE remembered in 2001 that they had a Light Heavyweight Championship, and they decided to bring in Jerry Lynn from ECW. He captured the championship from Crash Holly, and Jeff Hardy ended up winning it from him. And then they booked the matchup right here at King of the Ring with X-Pac as the challenger. It was also because WCW just got hired, and there was a lot of cruiserweights coming in: Chavo Guerrero, Billy Kidman, and Gregory Helms. and WWE wanted to get back into the whole cruiserweight, light heavyweight fix that they, started when they created the championship in 1997. But the championship really went nowhere. But this was a good matchup. 3 stars. Jeff Hardy, is just as good of a singles wrestler as he's a tag team wrestler, and he's just really finding his niche. He started in the year he started in the year 2001. He had already won the Intercontinental Championship from Triple H at the time, and X-Pac, always one of the most underrated wrestlers, I think. And this matchup came off pretty good. X-Pac thinks he gets the win. The referee counts 3, but Jeff Hardy gets his leg on the bottom rope after an X Factor and a pin attempt. So Jeff Hardy used that to his advantage and hits a swanton on X-Pac for the 3 count. Very surprised this matchup is on there. It's good that they put it on there because that 2001 King of the Ring DVD, which is the only other DVD that has this match on it, it's nice to see that this matchup is available for people to view, because unless you want to pay like $30, because that's a WWF DVD, so you don't want to pay that price, of course. So this is the only other place to find it. The next match is Edge versus Kurt Angle, and it's also the same event, the 2001 King of the Ring. Gotta say, in this one, very, very impressive. This would be the start of a feud that, would take a short break and then continue the next year in 2002. Now, this matchup is very good, but not as good as their match that they had in Judgment Day in 2002. A lot of great counters here. There's some interference from Shane hitting a spear on Kurt Angle. And Edge then hits the execution, which is a move that a lot of the announcers always call it DDT, but for some reason they never like to call it the execution, even though that's what it was called. Anyway, he hits it, gets a 3 count on Kurt Angle. Tainted victory, but who the fuck cares? Edge is the king of the ring. Well deserved. This was the start of Edge and Christian deteriorating as a team, and Edge becoming the full-fledged singles wrestler that with the bright future that he had ahead of him. So this is where you really got to see Edge as the singles wrestler that he was, and the potential he had to be something truly great in the future. Definitely a great outing with a lot of great counters. 3.5 stars. Next match, Shane and Kurt Angle in a street fight, which is the reason why Shane speared Kurt Angle in this match against Edge. 5 stars. This matchup is incredible, and yes, this is the matchup with the spot where Kurt Angle hits a belly-to-belly overhead suplex on Shane, tossing him through the glass at the entranceway. First of all, I have to say, and this is also the one where you see WWF don't try this at home, and he says, I said to Shane, I think I broke my tailbone. That is this match. Kurt Angle breaks his tailbone in this one. So it goes without saying that this matchup is classic. 5 stars. Kurt Angle tries for that belly to belly, and Shane doesn't go through it's actually plexiglass the first time, and he just ends up getting smashed against it. It looks brutal. The second attempt he goes through. Kurt Angle then tries, once they get inside the entryway, Kurt Angle tries to toss him back out through another plexiglass panel. Shane McMahon doesn't go through it twice, so he just takes his head and rams it through it. Oh my God. Also, I gotta say, Shane McMahon an impressive shooting star press during this match. Kurt Angle then takes a wooden plank, places it on the top rope, climbs up, grabs Shane, Angle slam back down to the canvas for the 3 count. This match is an absolute classic. High spots galore. 5 stars. Matchup just really exemplified what the Attitude Era was all about. Hardcore, high impact, attitude-driven wrestling. It's just a classic. Next year, 2002, Rob Van Dam versus Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's claim to fame, his rise to the top starts here, because he gets the drop on Rob Van Dam If Brock Lesnar didn't come into the WWE, you gotta believe that Rob Van Dam probably would have been the King of the Ring tournament winner here. A little bit too short for my liking. It's a decent matchup. They would have I remember that they would have a little bit of a better match at Vengeance, but they never gave Brock and RVD a lot of time in the ring, even at Vengeance, the following month. So, gotta say that this was a decent way to end the tournament. Rob Van Dam is subjected to some interference from Paul Heyman, who was Brock Lesnar's agent at the time. Brock grabs RVD when he jumps off the top rope and smashes him with the F5, getting the 3 count. 2 stars, could have been a lot better. But, some decent athleticism shown by RVD and Brock with his power and, just presence in the ring. So anyway, that was successful. Brock Lesnar definitely deserving to win that tournament. The finals of the 2006 King of the Ring. Now, if you notice, we went from 2002 to 2006. This is because the King of the Ring pay-per-view was discontinued, and they decided to have it at Judgment Day, the finals of the tournament, because they were having matches on Raw and SmackDown. That finally came down to Bobby Lashley and Booker T. Bobby Lashley always sounded like a fruitcake, and I never was a big fan of Lashley at all. I think that he was a vile ECW champion. It was just a fucking waste. Booker T and Lashley. This matchup was decent. I'm giving it 2.5 stars. This is probably the best match Bobby Lashley would ever have, because Lashley was like a Brock Lesnar, a wannabe Brock Lesnar. He, WWE tried to make him a lot like Lesnar, but failed. He didn't have the presence or the ring ability, but they really tried, and it was a fail. The fans at the time were somewhat behind him, but 2006 was not a bright time for WWE at all. They were losing a lot in terms of ratings and fans. Fans were dropping like flies. They were abandoning WWE. The booking was just fucking horrible at this point. If you really want to see how bad the booking was, just look at the rest of the fucking show of Judgment Day. I don't have it like right in front of me right now. I'm just looking at a list of matches that are on the DVD. But just go and take a look at what else was on the show, and you'll see that WWE was suffering at the time. But yeah, this is definitely 3.5 stars. You've got Booker T winning it, and you would get the start of King Booker. This was just a real shame because Booker T just would turn into the most annoying fucking character, King Booker. I know a lot of people actually liked it because they said it reinvented Booker T, was becoming stale at the time. I don't think so. He should have stayed stale because this was just fucking reeking. After a couple of weeks, I couldn't stand the whole King Booker thing and the pinky. And then you had the King's Court with Finlay and William Regal, who turned out to just be Goonies for him. Horrible. Anyway, King of the Ring finals match between CM Punk and William Regal, April 21st, 2008. Short match, wish it went longer, but it was fucking cool while it lasted. I'm giving this matchup 2 stars. It was so short, but the reason why I loved it is because it was a stiff American strong style Muay Thai mix matchup. It looked great, and I really wish that these two guys would have had a real serious pay-per-view match. William Regal, very underrated. Just one of those wrestlers that you really believed was just a real fighter, like outside of professional wrestling, like tough, had a lot of credibility, and wasn't muscle-bound or somebody big like Brock Lesnar or someone like that. Just real wrestling, like Chris Benoit, like getting down to business. CM Punk, I have to say, the kicks that he displayed in this matchup were hard as shit. William Regal gets a real stretch on CM Punk and actually gets a tap out victory, which was actually very surprising at the time. I was surprised to see William Regal win the tournament. it was sad that it had to end so fast, but this was 2 stars. William Regal sits down in the King of the Ring throne, and just that is an epic image right there, at least for me. Because I love William Regal, and I admire him just like Daniel Bryan admires William Regal. I think that he's just a great athlete who doesn't get a lot of credit that he definitely deserves. The last matchup on the whole entire DVD, King of the Ring, John Morrison versus Sheamus. This happened in 2010. This was a great matchup. I'm so sad that John Morrison is not with the WWE anymore. I hope after he heals up with all his injuries, he comes back, because J-Mo just looked fantastic in this matchup, and so did Sheamus. I mean, back and forth. John Morrison, they gave him a lot of offense in this matchup. It was booked in a nice way. A lot of time was given to it. A good solid 10 minutes. Just 3 stars. A lot of good action occurred here. Sheamus hits the Celtic Cross, gets the victory on John Morrison. I just have to say that this was a good one, and really showed that John Morrison definitely deserves to be in WWE. So hopefully he comes back one day. Overall, with this DVD, the first disc is a bit of a bust, even though it's historic. It's a success on that front. The best matches, well, you've got 5-star matches in a couple of places on here. You've got Shawn Michaels and British Bulldogs, 5 stars. You've got one that's close to being 5 stars with Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels. You've got Undertaker and Mankind, which is just a classic. You got the Street Fight, which is 5 stars. You got a lot of good matches. You got a couple of average things. You got the awful Hulk Hogan Yokozuna matchup, which you might really want to consider just fast forwarding through. But overall, it's successful. There's a lot of repeats on here that you can find in other places. But overall, it's nice to have a nice cohesive King of the Ring DVD. Could they have done it better? Could they have made it longer? Yes, of course they could have. Especially when disc 2 is so short. It's only 2 hours. On a DVD, you can fit so much onto it. Is it, do you deserve to buy it? Hell, listen to this. If you're going to buy this, if you don't have Netflix yet, how about you do this? Sign up for a free month if you never had Netflix before. Watch Netflix. Watch this on Netflix, then get rid of it. And then you don't have to pay $20-something for this DVD. Good plan? Because, but if you do want to buy this DVD as a keepsake, because you love King of the Ring, or you like some really good wrestling matches, definitely I'd say go and pick it up. There's definitely enough good matches to warrant a purchase here, and definitely to warrant a viewing. As far as what I would rate the thing, I give it an 8 out of 10 because some real shit on here, but I like a lot of matches, and definitely that Shawn Michaels Stone Cold matchup is the rarest thing on here. You can't find that anywhere else. So it's great to see stuff like that. Surprises like X-Pac and Jeff Hardy. Love seeing that match again. I used to have that DVD. I sold it, the 2001 King of the Ring. So it was great to see that match again. So overall, very successful. A lot of classics. King of the Ring. We didn't see a tournament in 2011. I hear that WWE's thinking about bringing the pay-per-view back. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know. But anyway, definitely try to get your hands on this one, or at least try to watch it in some way. Anyway, I'll see you, and I'm actually watching Ladder Match 2 on Netflix, so maybe I'll do a review of that when I'm done. Alright, see you later.